Welcome everyone to CELPIP Speaking Pro Lesson 2, and welcome back to those of you who were with us already today for Lesson 1. So I'm hoping everyone is hearing me now. Mohammed, can you hear me? Because you were writing in to say you couldn't hear anything. Please let us know. So my name is Marcy, and for those of you who were here this morning, I was the person typing to you earlier. And with me today is Chris, and of course many of you already know Chris because he was your teacher for Lesson 1. So we've switched roles now just to keep us both on our toes, and because we both love talking with you and we both love typing with you as well, this way we get to do a little bit of each. All right. So a couple of housekeeping things I want to get out of the way. First of all, in order to communicate with me, you do need to click on that orange arrow to open up the control panel, and that will give you access to the questions box. Please use that questions box as much as you would like to send us questions, to answer questions, and to share your comments and thoughts and observations. I'll be responding to some of your questions verbally, and Chris will be responding to many of your questions by typing, okay? So you'll get a variety of answers. I do also ask that you keep your questions related to the tasks that we're dealing with and to related matters about the speaking test. Unfortunately, we're not able to help you with personal questions like, how many hours should I study to get a level 11? We're just not able to give very specific answers like that without knowing you individually, okay? So a couple of other things. There was a question here. So Anand asked about the how the speaking score is calculated. So there are 8 speaking tasks, and each one is scored separately. So you'll get a task on each of the scores. Those 8 tasks are combined together for an overall speaking score. So they are all equally combined, okay? When you receive your score report, you don't see your individual task scores, you just see what your final score is for speaking, okay? So I hope that clarifies that. All right, other things you need to know: you cannot see me today, you cannot hear each other, or sorry, what I really meant to say was you cannot see each other's comments unless Chris is responding and wants to share the question and answer with the whole group, and in that case you will see it. Otherwise, I will be seeing and Chris will be seeing all of your questions, and we'll answer as many as we can. Mario is asking, how many people evaluate each task? Good question, and I'm very happy to tell you that there are a minimum of 3 CELPIP speaking raters involved in assessing your speaking ability, and there could be as many as 5, okay? All right, so let's get going. What we're doing today is we will focus on the last 4 questions. That is the last half of the CELPIP speaking test. So that's task 5, 6, 7, and 8. First, I'm going to do a review of the performance standards. So if you already had that review earlier, bear with me, and I will try to bring in some new insights to help you get a better understanding of those performance standards. From there, we'll move straight into task 5, and then we'll follow the same pattern for each of the tasks. So I will present you with a sample question. We'll discuss things you need to know about how to deal with that task. You can listen to a sample response, and I'll give you some information about it, about what the raters have to say about it. And then for each task, you will get 1 practice session. So make sure you have your cell phone handy, because my hope is that you will record your practice sessions today so you can analyze them later, okay? After you've had a practice session, then I will play you another sample response for the question you just answered. Throughout this process, we'll be discussing the challenges related to each task, and I will give you a set of strategies for each one as well. Okay, so throughout the lesson, what is ultimately going on is that you are getting a much better understanding of what the CELPIP raters are listening for and what you need to work on to bring your score up. Okay, so here are the performance standards. Some of you may have these printed out and in front of you now, and that will be useful. If you don't worry about it, because I'll be flashing this up for you throughout the lesson today. Okay, so the performance standards. This chart is a simplified version of the rating scale that is used by our trained and certified CELPIP raters. So they are trained to assess you in these 4 categories that you see on the left in bold type. Now, in each of these categories, there are 3 or 4 factors or specific areas that the raters are focused on, and they're listening to see how you do in all of these areas. So I'm going to walk you through these 4 categories now. Please understand that for each response that you give, the raters will be listening and assessing what you've done in each of these categories, and your score can go up and down based on doing really well in one area, not so well in another area. But each person's score is given for their own particular set of strengths and weaknesses, okay? There's no formula that everyone gets a 7 if this. That's not the way it works. Okay, so let's start with content and coherence. This category is all about the ideas that you choose to talk about in your response. So I want to draw your attention first to this second point, quality of ideas. By this we mean you need to come up with ideas that respond directly to the question. And you need to choose the strongest ideas to talk about and then develop those ideas with examples, descriptive details, anything you can think of that helps us understand why this idea is relevant. In terms of number of ideas, it really varies, but what we don't mean here is talk about as many ideas as you can. No, what we mean is try to develop each idea thoroughly or as well as you can, but have a minimum of, let's say, 2 ideas in a 60-second response. And I would say a minimum of 2 and maybe up to 4. So 2 to 4 ideas for a 60-second response, 3 to 5 ideas for a 90-second response. This is a very rough guideline, okay? It's not a golden rule. So these are the most important things for you in this content and coherence category. Mario is asking, do you need to use an example for every idea that I put in your response? So the answer to that is you need to develop every idea in some way. You can't just mention an idea and move on. So if you decide that, let's see, I'm trying to think of an example. If you decide that you want to explain why cell phones are bad, and if you say, well, I think cell phones are bad because they're unhealthy. Another reason they're bad is blah, blah, blah. Well, then you haven't developed the idea of why a cell phone is unhealthy, okay? So you need to give supporting information, not necessarily an example, but supporting information for each idea. So vocabulary, of course, is all about your word choice, and hopefully you are able to access suitable words and phrases for the topic you're speaking about. In addition, if you're going to repeat some key ideas, hopefully you can rephrase them. So say them again in a different way to demonstrate your range of words and phrases. So for example, you wouldn't say, wow, the soup was delicious. Oh, the chicken was delicious, right? Don't keep using the same words. You want to use a different set of words. And ultimately, All of the words and phrases that you use should be able to express your ideas with precision and accuracy. A cautionary note about vocabulary. Don't use high-level vocabulary if you aren't comfortable using it. So if it's the first time you're using a certain word or phrase, maybe don't do that in the middle of your test. You want to demonstrate that you have a good command of your vocabulary, so stick with words and phrases that you can use effectively. If this means that in some cases you have to use lower-level words, that might be a better choice than using high-level words and using them incorrectly, okay? Robert is asking if supporting information needs to be factual or imaginative. Well, Robert, that's a good question, and I would say it depends on what the task is that you're dealing with. What is the actual question? What exactly have you been asked to do? For the most part, I would say that in the speaking test, you are free to use your imagination within the restrictions given in the instructions. So you need to follow your instructions exactly. So if you are asked to give a realistic prediction, then make sure it's realistic and not absolutely crazy. I hope that answers your question. For listenability, there are two main areas here. The first 2 points relate to your delivery skills. This means how you speak. So things like rhythm, pronunciation, and intonation, these should have a natural sound to them. Please try not to speak like this, right? You don't want a flat, chopped delivery. You want your voice to go up and down in a natural way. This second point, which is also delivery skills, these are things that native speakers do, and they're not mistakes really. They're just a function of our speech, and we all do them, but we don't want to overuse them. So you don't want to have a lot of pauses in each response. You don't want to use a lot of interjections, and these are words or sounds we make when we're thinking, like gee, all those kinds of sounds. So a few of those is okay, but a lot, not a good idea. Also, if you know you have made a mistake, by all means, go back and correct it right away. That's a good thing to do. But again, you don't want your whole answer to be a series of self-corrections. So these final 2 points relate to your command of the language. So you need to use your best grammar skills. So speak in complete sentences and try to use a variety of sentence lengths and sentence types. Also, this is a good place maybe to mention using transitions and joining words, because those make it easier to follow the logic of your response. So finally, the last category is called task fulfillment. And I summarize this with a question that goes like this. Did you understand what you were supposed to do, and did you do it well? Okay, so that's what you're aiming for here. Make sure that everything you say relates in complete 100% totality to the question. Make sure that when you get to the end of your response, you're not leaving your listener with some feeling of confusion or, gee, I wish that you had said more about that first point. The tone needs to be appropriate for the situation, and most of these tasks are role plays. So make sure you understand who are you speaking to, and why. Finally, try to fill all of the speaking time, and just to make things more fun, see if you can have some kind of a concluding sentence. I like to call it a wrap-up sentence. These are not essays that you're speaking, right? They're informal pieces of speech. So try to complete each one before the time runs out. Okay, Mario is asking about using slang, informal vocabulary. Is this okay? So I would avoid the use of slang in a test situation. Remember, you want to show your absolute best language skills, so I would say slang isn't the best way to do that. Informal vocabulary could be very appropriate if, for example, you're speaking to a close friend in the situation. Sometimes you're going to have to use more formal vocabulary. So each question is a different situation. It's your job to judge how formal or informal your language should be, okay? Are there questions, and how are you all doing at this point? Because we're going to move on to task 5. All right, let's see how we're doing with time. Oh, I'm doing well so far, okay. All right, so here we go. Now, task 5 is always a lot of fun. It is different from all the other speaking tasks because it is given to you in 2 parts. So you're actually going to have 2 screens, not 1 screen for this task. So in task 5, you are comparing and persuading. So in part 1, you're going to be comparing 2 similar things. And in part 2 of task 5, you're going to be persuading someone that your choice is the better choice. So when you are making your choice between the 2 things, which you'll be doing in part 1, the best strategy is for you to try to choose the thing that you're the most comfortable speaking about. So let's have a closer look at this. Here's part 2, by the way, but I want to bring this up on screen bigger so we can all see it more clearly. Okay, so I'm going to read through the instructions with you here. So it says, your manager is organizing a workshop to help employees improve productivity and asked employees for opinions on workshop topics. You have found 2 suitable options. Using the pictures and information, choose the workshop you prefer. Now, the next sentence says, in the next section, you will need to persuade a coworker that this is the better choice. And then finally, just above the pictures, if you do not choose, the computer will choose one for you. You do not need to speak for this part. Okay, so be aware that you have 60 seconds here. So if you go up to the top, I'm circling the timer bar here, and you will see that there is no speaking time in part 1. That's because you've got a lot of information to read. You've got to compare these 2 items and you need to choose one, okay? So you have 60 seconds to do this work, but you don't have to speak at all. The speaking will happen in the next part. A couple of things I want to draw your attention to. First, a question for you. Who are you in this role play situation? So please use that questions box to give me your answer. Who are you here? And who are you speaking to? Thank you. So I have a couple of people writing in, a subordinate or an employee. Yes, so you are an employee and you are speaking to, or sorry, you're not speaking to in this situation. You are following instructions from your manager, okay? So that's what you need to be very clear on here. Now, you're not doing anything in this part, you're just reading and understanding the situation. Now, in the official test, you would have your choice and you would click on one of these before this timer hits 0. But in our practice today, we don't have the ability to run the test delivery software for you here on GoTo. So we are making the choice for you. And you can see that we've already put a red box around communication skills. So you know during your practice which one we've chosen for you and which one you're going to have to speak about, okay? Now, when you get to part 2, you can see that communication skills, which we chose for you, is on the right in a shaded box. So when you get to part 2, your choice is always on the right. And another new choice is on the left. So going back to part 1, Forget about this fast typing choice. It's now in the garbage. You don't need to think about it when you get to part 2. Here, you're told, one of your coworkers, a coffee enthusiast, suggests organizing a coffee workshop for all the office workers. Persuade this coworker that the workshop you choose is more suitable by comparing the two. So now you know that you're going to choose, or sorry, you're going to speak to a coworker, which was explained earlier. And you're going to explain why this communication skills workshop is a better choice than making coffee, right? So in part 2, you have another 60 seconds of preparation time. So this is the time for you to get familiar with the new option and to think about ways to prove why your choice is better. And then you're going to be speaking for 60 seconds, all right? All right, so I see a couple of questions have come up. Let's see. So Anand is asking a very complex question about how the scores are averaged. Anand, I don't have time to explain scoring to you, but please feel confident in knowing that it is a basic average of all the eight scores on the 8 tasks, okay? And it is, as Chris has explained, it is a complex mathematical thing that goes on there. Okay. Maria, Chris, could you help Maria? She seems to be having a problem with her sound or something. I'm not quite sure what it is. Okay. All right, so going on. Finally, what I want to do now is play you a sample response for this first example, and then we'll go on and do some discussion and practice. So, is everybody ready to hear this first sample? Here we go. Oh, before we go, I just want to give you a chance to, hold on. I just want to give you a moment to look again at the performance standards. I want you to think about these 4 categories as you listen to the response and send me your comments about strengths and weaknesses, okay? That's, in fact, in many ways more relevant and useful than talking about the level, but I will tell you the level later. Okay, here we go.
So I think that communication skills is very important to improve the productivity and quality of work. So we need to make a workshop to improve the communication skills for everybody. So it's gonna take 2 hours, which is very good and convenient time for all employers. It will be also online, so I think it's more fun to have some stuff online because most of the people like to go online and use the internet to do the workshop. If we see that 2 hours, 2 hours doing online workshop, personally I think it's a very good idea and it's convenient for most of the stuff. This will make the meeting more effective for everybody, and as we said, it will be more productive.
My sister,
sorry about that. Okay, so what did you think? I don't see any comments coming in yet. What are your observations on that response? Strengths, weaknesses, anybody want to guess the level? Okay, thank you. Neha has commented about a repetition of words. That's a good observation. Okay, let's see. Doyle is noticing that he repeated what was in the question. Afshin is noticing that the recording isn't so clear, and there is a little bit of background noise. I apologize for that. Unfortunately, there's nothing we could do about that. So it seems though that many of you were still able to hear it. Juhan has noticed that the speaker didn't talk about the coffee workshop, and there were a lot of interjections, says Jungwan. Let's see. Ideas, organization, rhythm, grammar, says Mario, but I'm not sure. There's an S. Do you mean strengths? Maybe. So lots and lots of comments coming in. June says, I think his ideas are clear. He also mentions all the perspectives from the list, all of the things in the list. It didn't include a lot of comparison between the two choices again. Or making coffee. Yes, good point. For those of you who couldn't hear very clearly, please make sure that your volume is turned up as high as it goes, okay, for the next time. All right, so I'm going to let you have a look at the transcript, and go ahead and send me your level guesses if you feel like you want to. And a couple of comments from our raters, then I'll tell you what the level is. So, content and coherence, this is a pretty well organized response. He does follow a logical structure. He gives a lot of examples of how the workshop is beneficial, and he provides details about them. And he also makes connections between the workshop and the results from the workshop. So he scores well in this category. So for vocabulary, there might be some repetition there, it's true, but he also has a couple of good phrases like improve communication skills, improve the productivity and quality of work, like to go online, if we see that. So these are higher level phrases, and they help to bring his mark up a bit as well. Listenability is mixed. He does have a slight bit of an accent. Rhythm, pronunciation, and intonation are fairly good. So nothing great, nothing terrible there. However, as many of you pointed out, task fulfillment is the big weak area here because he never mentioned the other choice. In addition, it wasn't clear that he was speaking to a coworker, and he did get cut off at the end as well. Test takers often get cut off, and if they have provided a really strong response, it isn't a big issue, but if there are holes in the response, if there are weak areas, then it will bring their score down. So, having learned all of this, I see a couple of level guesses are coming in. You guys are all in the right ballpark. You're in rating between a 5 and a 7. This is indeed a level 7, okay? Now, just a note for you, when you are looking at your first two choices, you will see that both of them are very good choices. So what I would like you to do is very quickly say to yourself, which one do I know more about? Which one do I have better vocabulary on? And that is the way you should make your choice. So don't just choose the one that you actually think is the best. Choose the one that you're the most comfortable speaking about. In your response, it is very important that it's clear that you're speaking to somebody that you work with, and also you must refer to the other workshops. So while you don't have to spend half and half time, you need to at least acknowledge the other item and give at least 1 or 2 reasons for why you think it's a problem. Okay? So, are there any questions before your first practice? So I want to get you moving on. So what we're going to be doing next is I would like you to imagine that you are sitting in the CELPIP Test Center on test day, and this is an actual test. I'm going to show you a brand new question for task 5, and I'm going to run the timers for you. So remember, there's going to be 2 screens. In the first part, you'll just have your 60 seconds of prep time, and in the second part, You will have another 60 seconds prep time, and then your speaking or recording time. Remember too that we will be making a choice for you, so there will be a red box in part one around the one that you're going to have to talk about in the second part. So that will save you a little bit of effort. We're choosing for you. Any questions before we begin? I hope you have your phone ready, and I would like you to record yourself. I also hope that you have something to write with so that you can make notes during your prep time. Are you guys ready? I'm hoping you are. I'm waiting for at least one person. Thank you. All right, here we go. Your preparation time begins now. And your prep time is up. We are moving to the second part. You will have prep time and recording time. Your prep time begins now. And your prep time is up. Get ready to open your mouth. Your recording time begins now. And oops, your recording time is up. So how did that go for you? For some of you, this is your very first practice session, at least in Pro. For those of you who were already here for lesson one, I'm sure you're noticing some improvements, but I would like to know how it went. Did you feel nervous? Did you feel like you had too much prep time? Did you have enough speaking time? Could you come up with enough points to talk about? Ooh, that's good news, Vandana. Glad to know it went so well for you. Did anybody encounter any specific problems that we could help you with? Jun says, mentioned all the features and compared with the other option, which is good. Cheng didn't have enough speaking time. Doyle says didn't go that well, lack of ideas. Robert was feeling a bit nervous. These are all very, very normal reactions. So one thing I will suggest is when you are giving your response, try not to just mechanically go through the list. Like, you don't want your response to say, well, Ellen, you know, I really think the British experience is a better choice. It's $25 per person, it has beautiful views, and it won the 2013 Best English Restaurant Award winner. No, instead what you want to do is reinterpret things in your own way, right? So you might say something like, well, Ellen, I think the British experience is a great choice. It's not that expensive. It's only about $25 per person. I understand that when you're seated there, there's absolutely breathtaking scenery that really adds to the atmosphere. And I think this restaurant won an award recently. Now, if we do the pizza, sure, they bring it to us for free and it's cheaper, but I'm not sure it's the right thing that we're looking for, right? Now, a couple of questions have come in, and then I want to play a sample for you, and we'll wrap up. So, yeah, so Maria's noticing you need to practice more. It's the first time you're doing this, and that's exactly right. The more you all practice, the better you do. Elena says she didn't have too much structure in the response. That's an excellent thing to be aware of, Elena, and I would suggest you focus on that in your next practice. So I would like everyone now to make a note of one thing you did that you felt you could have done much better, and maybe you could focus on that in the next practice session. Mariam says, I completed my task 2 seconds before. Is that okay? That is actually perfect. An extra 2 seconds is not a problem. Catherine is saying, could we practice out loud during the prep time? Yeah, I guess you could, although you may want to use that time to make some notes. Alexandra is saying, could I address this task to my dad? Well, read the instructions, Alexandra, and you'll see that you are told that you need to persuade your sister, right? Persuade your sister. So make sure you're speaking to your sister. Do you have to cover all the topics in both lists? No, you do not. But you do need to provide a convincing argument. You can come up with your own ideas. How many extra seconds is still good to use? I'm not sure what that means. Try to use up all your time and try to finish just before it ends, okay? It doesn't have to be exactly 60 seconds, but by the way, if you speak past the end of the recording time, your voice is not recorded, okay? It's okay if you finish a tiny bit early. All right, I want to play a sample response for you for this one that you just tried. So once again, I'll just let you have a look at the performance standards and keep these 4 categories in mind. Nina, I'm not sure what you mean when you say total 3 minutes for this question. Yes, it's 2 minutes of prep time divided up and 1 minute of speaking time. Robert says, are you scored down for saying So that's what we call an interjection. I spoke about that earlier. They are mentioned in the listenability area, second point. As long as you just have a few interjections and not like 10, then you're okay. All right, let's listen. Hang on a minute. I'm going to play you the next sample.
My sister, I just want to let you know that if we go to the restaurant, it would be much more fun for many reasons. First, we got to experience the British experience. It's one of the best restaurants. It got an award winner in 2013. And on top of that, it's not too expensive. I understand that the pizza is slightly less expensive, but also the British restaurant is still affordable. And on top of that, we will see a very beautiful views. We can take pictures, which will make it very, very memorable for us, and we can always see it in the future and remember this very nice day. So I think you should be convinced that we go out and have this beautiful experience.
All right, so a couple of questions have come in. I'm going to answer those while you send me your comments about what you just heard. So Jack is asking, do I need a conclusion sentence in my answer? Ideally, if you can have some kind of a closing sentence, that adds a nice touch to your response. If you don't have one, but you've given a complete response, it's still okay. I would suggest you practice trying to include a closing sentence and see if you can do that. Lucas is saying, can I or should I make up a name for the sister? That's entirely up to you. I find it adds a nice personal touch if you do use a name, but you don't have to. Nia is saying, how much do we get scored if our voice is disturbed? I'm not sure what you mean by disturbed, Nia, so I'll wait for clarification. Maybe Chris will be able to answer that. And examples of concluding sentences. So in this one, for example, you might say something like, well, it seems to me there's no doubt that the British experience is the best choice for us. Something that just kind of wraps up what you've said, okay? All right, so moving on. Oh yeah, I was going to give you some of the raters' comments. So here's the transcript for what you just heard. Content and coherence, she scores quite high here. She has a strong introduction. She's well organized. She also uses a number of transitions, such as for many reasons, first, and on top of that. Transitions really add to a response. Her vocabulary is a little repetitive. For example, she says best, on top of that, and expensive twice. But there are enough good expressions in here that she's kind of in the middle with her vocabulary. So for example, I think you should be convinced that. That's a very high level phrase, okay? Listenability, she's pretty easy to understand. I think most of you might agree on that. Her accent is minimal, so that's why she's easy to understand. So you're not penalized for having an accent. It's all about how easy or hard it is to understand you when you speak. And in terms of task fulfillment, well, she could have added a few more ideas. She stuck for the most part to the ideas in the chart. But overall, she scored well in all 4 categories, and there were a couple of level guesses that were very different, 7 and 11, but this is actually a level 10. Anand is asking, is there something like one particular thing that really brings your score down? And the short answer to that is no. It's a combination of all the factors in your response. So you just try to demonstrate your best speaking skills in every way. Maria's wishing that I could give you 2 minutes to read. Oh, so you know what, Maria? It's not a great idea to base your assessment of a speaking response on reading the transcript, because that's certainly not the way our raters do it. They don't see a transcript of your response. You really need to base your impressions on what you are hearing. Okay, the transcript is here for us as a study tool, In addition, we unfortunately don't have 2 minutes for each transcript. That would probably add, at least 20 minutes to the lesson. Okay, I'm going to now move forward. I see Chris has been answering some questions. All right, so to summarize for task 5, strategies are divided into the 2 parts of the task. So for part 1, 3 things to keep in mind. Use your time to read the situation and understand what's going on. In addition, you're going to spend your time comparing the information for the 2 items and then quickly make your choice before the 60 seconds are up. Remember, if you don't click on that, on your choice, then the computer will choose one for you. For part 2, where you're speaking, first of all, come up with some ideas about why your choice is better than the new option that you're going to see. Think of ways to explain why your choice is better and try to use specific language to make that explanation, okay? So those strategies will be included in your study pack. Fanny is asking, can the answer be somewhat conversational? And I would say yes. I mean, you can't leave space for your imaginary person to respond, but yes, imagine you're speaking to someone. I think that's a good strategy. All right, I'm going to keep on going. If you have any more questions, keep them coming, and Chris will jump in and help you out. Okay, so task 6 is all about a difficult situation. It's quite challenging. You are going to be presented with a situation and 2 choices, and then you're going to choose between the 2 things and explain your choice to somebody, depending on the situation. So you need to be able to justify your choice with really good reasoning. So this one is tough for a few reasons. First of all, you'll find that you're going to be speaking directly to either someone who's equal to you or higher than you. And because you're ultimately disagreeing with them, you need to be very tactful. So that means that you have to be careful not to make them angry. So you need to be firm and yet understanding all at the same time. And then the other thing you need to do is come up with your own reasons to justify your position. So having a closer look here at the question, your child is in grade 4. He is the best soccer player in his school. His teacher gives him a lot of homework. Your child has to do about 3 hours of homework most evenings, so he does not have time to go to soccer practice. So that's the situation. And then you're going to choose one of these. Either you're going to talk to the teacher and explain why giving so much homework is a problem and suggest a solution, or else you're going to talk to your son's coach to tell him why your son will not be playing soccer this year. So both are slightly tricky situations. So think about this for a moment. Which one would you choose? How would you start your response? And I invite you to type your ideas into the questions box. How would you start your response? And then I have a sample that I'm going to play for you. Okay, I think I'll just move along. So I'm not sure which one you would each want to speak about, but listen to what this test taker chooses and how he does it. Hold on. First, as always, I just want you to have a look at the performance standards. See what you notice about the 4 categories. Okay, here we go.
Hi, Coach. I'm talking to you because of my son. I cannot let him go on the soccer team this year. I know he's a good soccer player, but the amount of homework that has been given to him is being a problem. He doesn't have enough time to finish his homework because of the soccer practice. And ideally, physical activity is always good, but if it's interfering with his academic studies, I think that I have to make a choice. And obviously I choose to give him more time for his academic studies because I believe that will prepare him better for the future. And that's all I have to say about this.
All right. I like Clifford's idea. He wrote in and suggested an opening sentence. I know this is a delicate subject, but so I think that's a nice, really good way to start the response if you're trying to be quite tactful, right? All right, what are your observations about this response? What did he do well? What do you think he could have done better? Any comments? Oh, let me show you the transcript. Sorry, there you are. Cameron thinks it sounds like he was reading a speech. Well, I never thought of it that way, but he did sound very serious. I agree with Robert. He was very personable and imaginative. I feel that way as well. Maria thinks he sounded doubtful and slow. Yeah, I didn't get that impression, Maria. I think that a native speaker listening to that feels that it's a very tactful yet firm response. Yes, Alexandra is making the comment that his ending is a little strange. That's all I have to say about this. I think that sentence was directed more at the raters than at the person in the situation. And you're right, Mario. It's a bit of an unfortunate ending. Or sorry, that was Alexandra who said that. It is a little bit of an unfortunate ending, but it doesn't impact on the score because there are many other things that he does well. A few problems in transitions, Mario's wondering. I'm not sure what you mean, so I don't think anybody noticed that. Okay, so Mia is commenting that you use the phrase "you know" numerous times. Is that okay? I would say you want to avoid that if you possibly can. Okay. All right. So a few comments from our raters. So content and coherence, very strong score here. He's very good at speaking directly to the manager. He provides good reasons with clear and logical support. So very high marks for content and coherence. Vocabulary might be a bit of a weak area because he seems to rely more on common words and phrases like small. He does struggle for words a little bit towards the end. On the other hand, he uses some higher level things like very well trained, from my own experience. Oh, hold on. I think I was just looking at some notes from another response. I apologize. So ignore that last comment. Okay, so vocabulary is actually very strong. He's using terms like academic studies, physical activity is good, but if it is interfering with his academic studies, I have to make a choice. Wow, that's a very high level. Prepare him better for the future. So these kinds of things are very useful in pulling his mark up. For listenability, it's mixed. He has many interjections, but it is easy to understand and clear pronunciation. Also, high score in task fulfillment. He does everything he was asked to do. His tone is appropriate for the situation, and he does fill the time. Yeah, and a few of you are still commenting on that closing sentence. Yes, he could have done better with that. I think we all agree. Okay, so I'd like you to get ready. Oh, so hold on. Neha's asking, how would you wrap up this task? Yeah, so if we wanted to improve on what he's done, because I believe that will prepare him better for the future. And then after that sentence, instead of, and that's all I have to say about this, you could come up with a closing sentence more like, let's see. For all these reasons, I hope you'll understand that my son won't be able to participate in soccer this year. Something like that. Oh, his score is a level 10. Okay. All right. Now, I want you to think about how you did on your first practice session. What do you want to focus on improving? And we are ready to move on to your next practice. So get your watches out, or your, your cell phones. I just dated myself there. And let's get on. Good luck with this practice. Here we go. Your preparation time begins now. And your prep time is over. Your recording time begins now. And stop. So how did this second practice go for you? What did you notice? Were you able to improve on that one thing that you wanted to improve? What was hard for you here? What was easy? In a moment, I'll play you a sample response for the same question. In fact, what I will do is I'm going to play you a level 12 sample response for this. Okay, so a few comments are coming in. Someone had a problem with the wrap-up sentence again. Hold on, I'm just getting this response lined up. Hang on. All right. Everyone's talking about the wrap-up sentence. So let me take your focus off the wrap-up sentence. I think people are a little too worried about it. The wrap-up sentence is just one sentence, right? What I want you to be more focused on is the content of your response. What kinds of ideas are you coming up with? Are you coming up with good vocabulary to express them, and so on? If you have time at the end for a wrap-up sentence, that's a good, nice finishing touch, but it is not the one thing that is going to make your response better. I would say you want to also think about transitions, joining words, complete sentences, your tone. All of those things contribute, right? So don't get too hung up on this last sentence. Elena's saying, would I get a lower rating if I talked more about the building and convenience instead of having a dog and all the joys and disadvantages of having a dog? Well, that's an interesting question, Elena. The instructions tell you that you're either going to talk to John and explain why he shouldn't have a dog, or you're going to talk to the manager and explain why John should keep the dog. So either way, it sounds to me like your focus needs to be on the things related to the dog. Okay, so yes, you can refer to the building rule, the policy, right? But the focus is on how the dog is a problem or why the dog shouldn't be a problem, okay? Having said all of that, whatever you talk about needs to be relevant to the question, and you need to develop each point well. That's the bottom line. Does that help? So with that in mind, why don't you listen to this test taker? This is a level 12. So I want you to notice anything you think that helped this test taker score so high. Here we go.
Good morning, John. I was just talking to the building manager and he tells me that you want to get a dog. You know how much I love animals. But do you think it's really a good idea? You work all hours. You leave the apartment at 7 a.m. and some days you do not get back till 6 or 7 p.m. at night. Who will mind the dog then? I know a dog is great company, but you must think about the animal. For those 10 to 11 hours a day he is by himself, he might end up eating all your good shoes and eating through your couch out of boredom. Maybe you should look at getting a house first with a big garden. Then you will have loads of room and time to play with your dog. I hope you come to the correct decision. And please let me know if you get the dog, as I would like to play with.
All right. Anything you notice about that? It is a level 12. So you'll notice that he did focus primarily on the dog. Okay. He uses really high-level expressions, which are underlined here. He comes up with lots of supporting points. Neha comments, he was stuck to his topic. That's good. I like that expression. In other words, she's saying he was right on topic the whole time. And yes, he did have a good opening sentence, and he also had a really nice closing sentence as well. Okay, lots of strong points, very well expressed. Okay, so to summarize for task 6, and if you have questions, please start typing them in now. Key strategies for you. Remember to always speak directly to the person, and if you want to, this time you were provided with a name, so you may want to use that name. If you're not given a name, you're free to make one up if that makes you feel more comfortable. So points 2 and 3 go together. You need to be tactful, which basically means be considerate of the person you're speaking to, but also be firm. So don't be threatening, but just very clearly state your position. Clearly outline the problem at the beginning, then make your request or state your position, And as always, you need to include effective reasons or information to support your what you're saying. And in this case, it's reasons that support your decision. Okay? It's true, Serdar is noticing that he didn't talk about the no pet policy. He wasn't obligated to include that piece of information. Many people would like to do that, but it's not a task requirement that you talk about it. You simply have to give good reasons for your request, okay? Yeah, somebody wants to see this again, and here it is. Okay. All right, so I'm already short on time. I'm copying Chris. So task 7. In task 7, this is a very standard type of tell us your opinion question. So typically, so that was a level 12, okay? So moving on, in task 7, you are going to usually be answering a do you think type of question. And so in other words, you're going to be agreeing or disagreeing with the question. So in this case, the question is, do you think it's okay for adults to have friends they only know online? And then the very important instruction, explain your reasons. So you need to give good support for each reason you come up with for your opinion. So I'll put the question to you for a moment. How would you begin your response here? What would your first sentence be? And think of one point you could make or one reason. Now, I do have a sample response, so I'm getting that ready for you. And I guess what I want you to do now is don't worry right at this moment about the questions I asked you. Hopefully you've got some good ideas in your mind. Oh, Paloma is saying, is it okay to start with, in my opinion? Yes, that would be a nice opening phrase for your response. So what would come after that? In my opinion, how would you complete that sentence? Well, so while you ponder that question, how's about we listen to this test taker and see how he does with the question? Oh, I like Juhan's idea. So in my opinion, I think adults have the right to have online friends. Nice, nicely stated. Okay. Listen to this test taker.
I think it's okay for adults to have online friends because first of all, they are adults. They are not like teenagers or something, so they can use their discretion to carefully choose people and friends online, and at the end it's just kind of a friendship. They will not go to make any relation or go like deeper more than like friends. And of course, when you make friends online, you have to see them at the end. So when you see them, when you interact with them, when you go with them, you can realize their personality. You can see if they were lying by writing something wrong in their profile in the internet or something like that. So yeah, I think when it's okay to have friends using online. And again, because you will realize right after which one was right choice or wrong choice. So having friends online is okay for me.
All right, so I let that whole tape play out. You'll notice that the test taker finished early. He was about 15 seconds early. So that's what happens if you finish long before the time is up. Okay, I wanted you to hear that. But I still invite you to give me your comments about this. And while you're getting your comments ready and sending them, Alexandra has asked, is it okay here to talk about a personal experience? And I would say yes, because a personal experience could be a good supporting detail or piece of information for a point that you're making, okay? Did he talk about a supporting, about a personal experience? No, I guess not, but some people do. Okay, so here's the transcript, and let me know what you think. Here's what the raters had to say, and then I will tell you the level, okay? So for content and coherence, very strong. He comes out right at the beginning. He states his opinion immediately and clearly. He uses good transitions. First of all, of course, again, logical presentation of ideas with good support and examples. Vocabulary is mixed, so it's not a strong area for him. There are some good things, such as use your discretion, lying on their profile, but there's also some awkward phrases. Go like deeper, like more than friends. That's really awkward. And you will realize which one was right or wrong choice. Again, that's a natural phrase. Okay, so he doesn't score high here. For listenability, he speaks quickly at times, and then he does that repeated 2 but his intonation is strong. And finally, task fulfillment. Well, overall, he does well in task fulfillment, but he does end before the time is up, so he definitely loses points there. So, yeah, so Ping Ping has made a point that he talks about knowing somebody online and meeting them later. That's justified in the way he's presenting his explanation, because he's explaining what can happen when you meet a friend online. Okay, so he's not off topic there. So people are guessing the level. Any more level guesses? It is actually, so the guesses are ranging between a 7 and a 10, and this is a 10, okay? Level 10. Okay, so now, once again, I want you to think about what you can do to improve your speaking responses. Maybe pick one different thing to focus on in this practice. Okay, so think about what you're going to try to improve. And I have a brand new question for you. Is everyone ready? Here we go. Now, I will just mention you have a shorter prep time, 30 seconds prep time, but you have 90 seconds of speaking time. I should have pointed this out earlier. Okay, good luck. Prep time begins now. Your prep time is over. Your 90 seconds of speaking time begins now. and stop. All right, so I kind of sprung that 90 seconds on you. How did it go? Were you able to fill all the time? Right, you had a short prep time and a long speaking time. And the reason for the long speaking time here is that it does take time to present and support one's opinion on a topic. All right, so I'm wondering how you did, and I do have a sample that I'm looking forward to sharing with you in a moment. So I think I will go ahead and play it. Let me know what you think, but first, as always, let's have a look at the performance standards. Now think about these 4 categories as you listen to our test taker. All right, here we go.
I think high schools should definitely ban unhealthy snacks, soft drink, potato chips, vending machine. These are a disease. These are a poison for our younger generations, and with these are the things that are causing all this. The diseases and people being sick, and obesity is one of the biggest things, diseases that's on the rise right now. And it's all these unhealthy snacks, they're full of sugar, they're processed, they're full of salt, and it's making younger kids get overweight and be lazy, and it's deteriorating the health of children all over the place. I think that there should be a law in which high schools and schools should actually persuade children to consider healthier options for and have juices and milk instead of soft drinks, or have proper vegetables instead of potato chips, and promote a healthier lifestyle and living, and that is where most of the education is needed. So future.
All right, well, I really wonder what you think of this response. And here's the transcript for you. So you can see there's a lot of language here. Please feel free to send in your comments. So I'll go through what our raters have to say, and then I'll tell you the level. So if you want to guess on the level, please do so. Okay, so for content and coherence, very weak in this area. Anybody have any idea why? What was his big weakness here? How many points did he make? Well, Jack is noticing that he repeated the question. Yes, he does use a lot of the wording from the question. Now, the problem with the content is, thank you, Paloma, you're exactly right. He only has one idea. He goes on and on and on about how, let's see, unhealthy snacks are bad for us. And he uses the same language over and over as well, okay? So he scores very low in the content coherence category. And his 1 point is snack food is unhealthy. Now, in terms of vocabulary, he has a problem here as well, because he repeats the same words because he's expressing the same idea. Disease, poison, sick, obesity, sugar, salt. These words are all repeated at least twice. And let's see, he does have some stronger vocabulary, such as younger generations, consider healthier options, promote a healthier lifestyle. So this brings him up a little, but still he's scoring low in content and very mixed in vocabulary. Listenability is fairly good. Nice delivery. His grammar is pretty decent. His sentence structure is varied. Task fulfillment. There's a problem here as well. His tone is inappropriately strong when he's talking about disease and poison. So it's not quite appropriate for the situation. Also, he gets cut off at the end. So what level do you think he is? And that is a level 7, okay? Robert is asking, can you paraphrase the question for the introduction? I guess you mean for the beginning of your response? Yes, it would be wise to restate the main point in the question, for sure. Okay, so for task 7, let's wrap up with a look at key strategies. So first of all, you only have 30 seconds prep time, so make sure you understand the question and figure out a way to stay on topic for 90 seconds. So during your prep time, quickly decide if you're going to answer with a yes or a no. It really doesn't matter which way you go, whatever you're more comfortable with, okay? Try to come up with at least 3 reasons to support your opinion. Remember, you have to fill 90 seconds. And develop each reason with examples or details or even a story, a true story or a made-up story. And try to present your reasons logically. If you can use transitions as you move from one to the next, that again is a great tool and could help to raise your score. Okay, so we're already, we have about 6 minutes. So I'll warn you that we will be going 5 to 10 minutes at most overtime. If you have to leave before then, I understand. But let's get into task 8. Okay, so task 8 is quite challenging. Here you are asked to describe an unusual situation, and furthermore, you're given a role play. So there's typically a phone call involved. The best strategy here is to focus on the unique features of the image and use descriptive language, of course. So let's have a closer look. Let's read the instructions. You are driving down a country road when you see something unusual. You call 911 on your hands-free phone and you are connected to the police. Explain in detail what you see and what you want the police to do about it. So there's 2 things happening here. First, you're making a phone call and you must do these things here. Explain what you see and you have to say what you want them to do about it, okay? Now the second thing happening is whatever you're seeing here, you have to describe this in a way that makes sense. Now, whatever you're going to see in task 8, guaranteed it's something you're not normally going to see in your everyday life, and that's why it's challenging. Typically, a person needs high-level vocabulary to deal with this. If you don't have high-level vocabulary, you need to be quick thinking. How can you put very simple words together to explain what you're seeing? So, for example, useful vocabulary here could be blue station wagon, towing, a couch or a sofa on wheels, attached, ropes, teenagers, unrestrained, dangerous. Okay, this is just a few examples of the type of wording that comes in handy. So that's where the challenge is, really. Okay. So let's have a listen to this test taker and see how they do with this one.
Hi, this is Mike calling. I'm driving on the street. I think this is Robson Street. I see really unusual thing in front of me. The car is pulling a sofa and 2 people are sitting on the sofa. So I think this is really weird. The woman sitting on the sofa is just talking to the guy next to her. and I don't think they will stop this. It is really, really dangerous. I want to give you the point of the car to make you find the car easier. So the car is blue. 3 people are in the car. They're pulling beige sofa. The beige sofa has 4.
Hi, I was just looking out the window this morning and I can see a squirrel stuck.
Hang on. Whoops, sorry about that. That one came up really fast. Okay, so you did hear the complete response here. What do you think? How did she do? Let me show you the transcript. So you can see there's not a whole lot in the response, but she didn't do badly, did she? Even though she clearly had very limited vocabulary. So comments from the raters. For content and coherence, she's pretty good. So she does the phone call well. She provides basic details about the location and the situation, and she is able to explain some of the unique features in a very simple way. So she does all right. Vocabulary is a weak area because she does rely on very basic vocabulary like street, really, really. She's unable to come up with higher level language, but occasionally she's able to put simple words together to express complex ideas. So for example, she says, I'll give you the point of the car, because she can't think of the phrase, I'm going to describe the car for you. She says, make you find the car easier. What she really means is so you can identify the vehicle. So even though she doesn't use the higher level words, she's still able to communicate these ideas, and that's a skill. But she's still held to a certain lower level. Listenability, her accent is occasionally problematic with words like she says sink instead of think. When she says sofa, it sounds like sofar. And when she says they, we hear they. There are a few long pauses. Most of the sentences are short and simple, and sentence structure is a little awkward. So listenability is on the lower end of the scale. Task fulfillment quite high. She does describe the situation. However, she doesn't explain what she wants the police to do about it. So overall, score is, oh, good job, Po Young, right on the button at 7. Good job. Okay, so a couple of points I want to make here. This is what we just heard in our example. This is her description of the car, okay? And this is a higher level version of what she could have said if she was a higher level speaker. There is a blue station wagon directly in front of me. This is going to sound unbelievable, but the car is towing a beige sofa by ropes that are secured to the hood of the car. Even harder to believe, there are 2 young people sitting on the sofa, unrestrained, so they could tumble off at any time, especially given how fast they're going. There are another 4 teenagers in the car, and they all appear to be having a great time. Like this is a wonderful prank for them. They obviously have no idea that the 2 people on the sofa are at enormous risk. Okay, so that's what a higher level speaker might try to do. So, just a word on descriptions. You want to focus on how to do powerful descriptions on the right side. Try to avoid these things on the left. So this will be in your study pack. I'll just quickly review what you need to do for a powerful description. So start with an overview. Include all key aspects in the image, not everything you see, but the things that are weird, the things that are unique. Try to use strong words in your description and include evocative details that would make the reader feel how you feel when you see it, or make the listener feel that way. Remember to use a variety of sentence types, and if possible, include a wrap-up sentence that might give your opinion about what you're seeing. Okay? So last practice. This one's going to be hard, so I want you to take a breath, kind of exhale for a moment, gather your energy. Is everybody ready for a new, challenging, unique situation? Okay, here we go, and good luck. Have some fun with this. Your prep time begins now. And stop. Your recording time begins now. And stop. Phew. Well, that one's pretty challenging, isn't it? How did you find it? I have a level 12 that I want to finish with. It's a really interesting response to this question. So did people find this one hard? What did you think? Just send me any comments while I get this lined up, and then I'm going to just play you this final response and give you some strategies, and you can get on your way. Yeah, it is a little hard, isn't it? Okay, so I have a level 12 test taker for you now. Please listen and see how he tackles this one.
Out or not?
John, it's Jamie. You wouldn't believe what I've got going on in the garden. It's hilarious. We've got a squirrel stuck in the birdhouse. The little monkey's got in there. He looks like he's halfway in. I'll send you a photograph. Actually, it's hilarious. But given that you're a bit of an expert on animals, I'd be wondering what we can do about it. It looks like he's pretty stuck. If you're about, free this afternoon, do you want to just pop over and give me a hand? Because the poor little blighter is, well, I don't know, he seems to be pretty happy. At least he's got plenty of food, but I'm going to need a hand getting the thing down. So I'd just be curious to know. There's the birds are sitting there laughing at him, I have to say, but he's up there most days. But today he seems to have just gone that little bit too far. No matter what you do, these they can always find their way in. They're pesky little buggers, aren't they? But either way, yeah, if there's any advice you can give me there.
All right. What do you think of that one? That test taker was kind of having a bit of fun with it, I would say. He was quite amused with the picture. So that is a level 12. I'll let you have a look at the transcript. Yes, it is true he's a native speaker. And if his voice wasn't clear for you, I apologize. That was the best we could do. So Alexandra's asking the key question, what if I don't know the vocabulary? Should I just describe what I see? Yes, that's the biggest challenge in task 8. Many of us won't have the vocabulary to give a precise explanation of the problem or the situation. You need to use simple language if you don't have higher level language, and put the words together to express what you mean, okay? And I would suggest practicing. So find pictures in magazines and newspapers that are unusual and just practice with one every day until your test. So to summarize for task 8, key strategies. So first of all, start by opening the phone call. Hello, whoever it is. Now, when you're describing the image, focus on the unique things that you feel you have some chance of describing accurately, okay? So you don't have to describe everything that's unique, but pick the things that you're a little more comfortable with and try to describe them. Use your imagination if you need to. As I already mentioned, if you can't find accurate and descriptive vocabulary, create your own phrases using common words. And don't forget to end that phone call at the end. All right, well, thank you for sticking with us through our extra long lessons today. I think Chris and I were both really enthusiastic today and we got carried away. So our apologies for going over time. I know many of you have a test coming up, so please use the study pack that will come in your email later today. Use it to review everything that you've learned and to do some more practice, okay? When you go in there on test day, just stay calm. Don't worry about everybody else around you. Just ignore them and give it your best shot. Have confidence in yourself. Okay, and I believe that brings us to the end of our lesson. So I want to wish you all a good weekend. Okay, thank you again, everybody, and have a great evening. Bye-bye.